Please welcome Enes Kanter.
This basketball star was popular.
You have the whole of MSG going like, "We want Kanter."
But then, Kanter spoke out about genocide in China.
There is a genocide happening right now.
His bosses at the NBA suddenly got mad. That's strange because the NBA encourages protests about injustice in America. They even pay for ads like this.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want?
The NBA painted Black Lives Matter on courts and encouraged players to kneel during the national anthem.
This league has done a great job of allowing us to go out there and speak for the people who may not be able to be heard.
No, only some people.
A swift censorship following star player Enes Kanter's blunt criticisms of the most powerful Chinese leader in decades.
China, it turns out, must not be criticized by an NBA player. Kanter lost his job. Even so,
he says he's not backing down.
So who is this player who gave up his career to protest abuse? I wanted to learn more about him, so here's our extended interview. When you came to America, you knew nothing about free speech.
Nothing. Zero.
When did you learn?
My first practice, I came here for high school. I saw one of my teammates post something on his Facebook, and he was criticizing the president. And I was like, I immediately turned around. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He said, well, like, what happened? I was like, I just saw your post. You might be in jail tomorrow. And everybody in the locker room started to laugh. And that teammate said, this is not Turkey, this is America. And I was very confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? So we literally sit down in the locker room and they were explaining me about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, expression, freedom of protest.
These 16-year-old basketball players knew about that?
Yep. And freedom of movements. And I felt like they were talking to a different language because the last 16, 17 years that I grew up in Turkey, I did not have any of those.
What happens in Turkey if you criticize the president?
My manager's wife is Turkish. And, her dad liked one of my posts on Twitter. He was in jail for 13 days.
Just for clicking like?
Yes.
And yet, for your first years in the NBA here, you just wanted to play basketball?
Yes. My first 2 years in NBA. All I cared about was playing basketball and having fun with my teammates.
And then?
There was corruption scandal happening in Turkey. President Erdogan and his family members were involved in it. And after the scandal, Erdogan started to put innocent people in jail. Journalists, police, prosecutors, judges. And he was shutting down media outlets because they were talking about this corruption scandal so much. And I was like, I don't care who you are, but if you're fighting against a free media, I'm going to say something about it. So the more I talk about it, the more it bothered the Turkish government because every time I said something, I write an op-ed or give an interview, it was becoming an international news because of the NBA platform. And they try to do everything they can to put pressure on me to not say anything.
In Turkey, the government retaliated. They couldn't get to you. They went after your family. What'd they do?
They tried to put pressure on me. They told me to be, keep it quiet so many times.
How? They would call you up?
They will tell my dad, tell him to be quiet. Tell him to be quiet. Don't tell him to stop saying anything against the government, even if it's true. So the things that I talk about affected me and my family. My dad was a scientist. He got fired from his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years. She still cannot find a job till this day. My brother was playing basketball. I think that's like the saddest one. He got kicked out in every team because of the same last name. And he was so young, I couldn't explain it to him. So they were getting affected so much, they had to put a statement out there and saying, we are disowning Enes. The letter is actually still on internet. It's public. Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey and they raided the whole house and they took every electronics away, phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. They couldn't find no evidence because
you're not?
I wasn't. they still took my dad in jail for a while.
Prosecutors are looking to convict and jail the NBA player's father for at least a decade.
They just wanted to set an example. This is what happens if you talk against the Turkish government. But we put so much pressure with media and politicians from here to Turkey, they had to let him go. They revoked my passport and they put my name on Interpol list.
When they went after your family, a lot of people would just shut up.
My family, obviously, the most important thing for me. But you know, there are so many families, so many moms and dads and kids actually in Turkish jails are getting tortured and raped. And I'm not just saying that. There are lots of reports like, you know, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Foundation are saying that people in Turkish jails are getting tortured and raped. So there are thousands of families. So I was like, you know what? I understand my mom and my dad are the most important thing for me and my sister, but there are so many people are in jail. We have to put pressure on them somehow.
What's the t-shirt about?
The t-shirt, this is actually one of my favorite quotes. It says, "Silence is violence." When you have a platform to literally change, make a real change or put...
But silence isn't exactly violence.
Well, to me, if you have the platform, if God gives you a gift, and if you're not using this gift to give back to people, you know, it's not always giving back money or charity, whatever. You can give back people by stand with them. Literally, that means so much to people out there who don't have a voice, you know? I think it's important to be the voice of all those innocent people out there who don't have a voice. And if you are not outspoken about some of the issues that are happening, you know, I believe that you're part of the problem. And once you're part of the problem, it's violence to me.
You went to a mosque. There's a piece of video where some people are criticizing you.
We are here at a mosque, and there's Turkish people, pro-Erdogan people, are actually attacking us. And there was two guys, and they were saying some really harsh words. I wish you could have understand the Turkish, but it was a very harsh words. And I talked to my teammate, and he said, first, I thought they were fans, but then he said he saw the hate in their eyes. It's just normal. And every day, someone who is against the Turkish government in America gets harassed. If you're in America, you're lucky, but if you're outside of America, you have a chance to get kidnapped, you have a chance to get killed actually, and there's been so many cases and there are so many reports out there that people are getting kidnapped. And also, when Erdogan came here, I believe it was 4 years ago, that, you know, his security guards got, you know, beat up some Turkish protesters. And it was all over the world. They did it in Washington in front of the White House.
Do you know this TV show, The Young Turks?
I did hear about it maybe from a friend. I never watched it.
The host said,
Turkey was not this place that Kanter's making it out to be, where if you disagree with the government, you'd be snatched up by the police. People have nonstop conversations about the government.
Oh my Lord, please look at the numbers. Turkey is the #1 country in the world that put the most journalists in the jail, over 300. I believe the last number was 313 something. There are 17,000 innocent women are in the jail right now waiting for help, and over almost 1,000 kids and babies with their mother in jails. If you want to see the real numbers, there's actually a website called turkeypurge.com. And there are so many people, so many academics, so many people lost their jobs, so many media outlets has been shut down just because of they talk against the government. So I have no idea what this guy is saying, but there are so many, you know, human rights. Look at the Freedom House. Look at Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Foundation. I mean, if you don't believe me, go to those websites and you can literally see what's happening in Turkey.
He makes it sound like a police state.
He should definitely educate himself about what's going on.
for more of my content, go to johnstossel.com. I post a new short video every Tuesday. That's at johnstossel.com. Well, your basketball career, though, was going strong. You could say bad things about Turkey and nobody cared.
Yeah.
But then you said something about China. Everything changed.
Everything changed. So the last 10 years, I talk about the problems were happening in Turkey. I want to say NBA were actually really supportive. Adam Silver texted me twice and said, whatever you need, we are here for you. Keep doing what you're doing. My teammates...
The commissioner of the NBA.
Commissioner, yeah. my teammates, my coaches, and so many people who works at the organizations that I played for, 5 different organizations. They said, keep doing what you're doing. You're standing up for innocent people in Turkey. You know, we are with you. We got your back. And that actually gave me so much hope and motivation because my teammates, especially like my brothers, you know, so their support was like the most important thing for me. And then just last summer, I'm doing a basketball camp in New York. So I remember taking a picture with this kid. While I was taking a picture, his parents called me out in front of everybody. Media was there, my friends were there, kids were there, everyone was there. He said, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are getting tortured and raped every day in concentration camp in China? And I'm still smiling for the camera. And once I heard it, I just froze. I just didn't know what to say. So I took a picture, I turned around, and I was like, I promise I'm gonna get back to you. So that day I canceled everything. I went back to my hotel. I started to study about what's going on. And the more I studied, the more I was ashamed with myself.
When the Chinese government took our BBC colleagues on a rare tour last year, they wanted to show a happy place where Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities are de-radicalized. But people who've been inside paint a very different picture.
Punishments included savage beatings, sleep and food deprivation. Police officers took the children away by force.
I was like, I cannot believe I had this huge platform is given by God. In the last 10 years, I only focused on one dictatorship. I could have just been talking about so many other, you know, groups who were being persecuted and in jails and waiting for help. So at that moment, I was like, I'm going to try to help. So I called my manager. I was like, I need you to find me a concentration camp survivor. The reason I said it was on internet, you can find all kind of news. You don't know which one is true or not. It could be fake or, you know, not fake, but he found me one. I sit down with this lady, had this 1-hour conversation, and she was telling me about the forced sterilization, abortion. She was telling me about the gang raping. She was telling me about the torture methods. She was telling me about the organ harvesting.
They didn't just rape. They were barbaric. They had bitten all over my body.
At the end of our conversation, I asked her, okay, how can I help you? She said, I'm good. I don't need your help. And I was very confused. I'm like, so we just had this 1-hour conversation for no reason? She said, no, I'm in America. I can go wherever I want. I can say or do whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. But there are 3 million concentration camp people in concentration camps are getting tortured and gang rape every day. Help those people. So at that moment, I was like, I don't care how much money or business or whatever involves. I'm gonna stand up for these innocent people, you know. And that's how it started.
Did you know it would cost you money and then your career? Any idea? I mean, all you did was put free Tibet on shoes.
Yeah. So here's how I did it actually. When I was a kid, whenever I watched an NBA game, the first thing I was watching was the shoes. I mean, everyone loves shoes, you know? And I was looking at what color they are, what brand, if they're comfortable. The next day I was waking up and telling my dad, please buy those shoes for me. So everyone loves shoes. What I really cared about, they educate the youth. You know, I feel like that's where we're gonna have the real change, I hope. That's what I'm hoping. So I reached out to these artists around the world who's been persecuted or who's been tortured, whatever, by their government. And we come up with this idea, we're gonna put all the struggles on the shoes, you know, and we're gonna go out there and play basketball. There's no rule against it. 2 years ago, during the NBA bubble, all these players would put in, you know, Black Lives Matter, you know, I Can't Breathe, Breonna Taylor.
The NBA was encouraging that.
Yes, exactly. So I just put free Tibet with non-slave labor shoes. That was the important thing for me, non-slave labor shoes. It was Celtics against the Knicks. The Knicks opened at night at Madison Square Garden on ESPN. So it was like one of the most watched game on television that night. So I put the shoes on. I went out there. I started warming up. And all my teammates looking at my shoes like, these are weird looking shoes. A minute before the game, 2 gentlemen came from the Celtics. They were working for NBA. They said, please take those shoes for us. You're gonna get us in trouble. And I was very confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, your shoes have been getting so much attention internationally. It was from China, obviously. You have to take those off.
This was only 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later.
Exactly.
How are they getting
minutes,
attention internationally?
Well, I tweeted about it too. But it was so much attention. So a minute before, right, they said they were telling me to take my shoes off. If I don't take them off, that I was going to get banned.
They weren't going to play you.
Exactly. So it was the perfect moment because I was just getting ready for my citizenship test. So I was like, okay. At that moment, I closed my eyes. I was like, okay, there are 27 amendments. My first amendment, freedom of speech. I'm like, no, I'm not taking them off because it's literally freedom of speech. So I was like, go tell your boss. It was Adam Silver, commissioner. I'm not taking him off. So that half, I played 0 minutes. At the halftime, I went back to my locker room. I had thousands of notifications on my phone. I clicked on the one that my manager sent me. He said, every Celtics game is banned in Chinese television. It literally took them 24 minutes to ban every Celtics game. So I played 0 minutes in that game, which I played every game before that. After the game, right, one of my teammates woke up to me in a locker room at Madison Square Garden. He said, this is your last year in NBA. Have fun with it. I hope you win a championship. But if you talk about anything, if you say anything against Chinese government, you're not going to be playing basketball in NBA ever again. And I was like, well, I thought that was freedom of speech. I thought that was Adam Silver and NBA was preaching for the whole time. So after the game, right, I got a phone call from the NBA. And they say, you know what, NBPA, the Player Association, which I pay thousands of dollars every year, every month to protect my rights against the NBA. They said, listen, NBA is putting a lot of pressure on us. You cannot wear those shoes ever again. The last 10 years, I talk about Turkey. I did not get one phone call. I talk about China. One night, I was getting a phone call, me and my manager, every hour. So they were putting so much pressure on me and my manager. I was like, okay, you know what? Promise. I'm not going to wear free Tibet shoes ever again. They said, promise? I said, promise. We hang up the phone. Next game, I wore free Uyghur shoes. They called me after the game. They said, you're a liar.
And to clarify, the Uyghurs is the Muslim group that's being oppressed most in China.
So they told me, you're a liar. We can never trust you again. I was like, I did not lie. Here's my conversation with you guys. So after the second game, I got another phone call from a guy named Daryl Morey, general manager of Houston Rockets back in the day. It was like 3 years ago. That first time actually tweet something about Hong Kong and became a huge mess for the NBA. NBA lost millions of dollars.
He just tweeted, stand with Hong Kong at a time when Hong Kong was being oppressed.
So he called me and he said, listen, they made me took my tweet down. They made me apologize. You don't take your tweet down. You don't back down. You don't apologize. Keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, oh my God, this is just crazy.
They fired him.
He was gone and now he apologized. Now he got a job because he apologized. He said he wasn't just not educated about the situation. So he got a job. He said, don't back down. Keep doing what you're doing because someone had to expose this hypocrisy. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go all the way then. The next topic was Nike, slave labor. And after that, every game was about something else. It was Taiwan. We even went to like Ukraine and Russia, and we did Venezuela and Cuba and Iran. So it became like a huge, huge movement. One-man movement, I would say.
I think the NBA is wrong, but I'll take their side. They could say, look, we're making millions from China. This is a really important market, and we do good things with that money. We have charities. We're paying more than 1,000 people. Scholarships, recreation centers, vaccination sites, carbon offsets.
Okay.
We need this money. We're helping people.
Your biggest, sponsor is Nike, one of the most hypocritical company in the world. When you look at Nike, Nike stands with Black Lives Matter, no Asian hate, Latino community, LGBTQ community in America. But when you go outside of America, like China, they use slave labors. You're signed with this company, one. And two, while you are dribbling the basketball on the other side of the world, people are literally losing their loved ones, losing their lives, and losing their homes. And you can put so much pressure on these governments, on these companies to actually take some actions. And the hypocrisy side is the one that's that hurts me the most. When it comes to problems that are happening in America, they're the first organization that's saying this is wrong, This is what should happen, blah, 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 right?
And that unbroken chain of advocacy undertaken by players.
I'm like, okay, you're using your platform. I'm not against it. This is your free speech. But then people is people, human is human, That's why no one could really stand against what I was saying, because I never talk about politics. I keep the pure human rights. No one can stand against human rights, I was talking about the people in, Hong Kong, Tibet, Uyghurs, and I was talking about some other human rights violations too, organ harvesting, surveillance cameras. So you cannot be against it.
But they were against it.
I had a 30-minute conversation with Adam Silver. He was talking to me like a robot. He wanted to make me feel better. He was telling me about the things that I wanted to hear. But end of our conversation, I asked him a couple of questions. I'm like, Adam, what do you think about China is banning every Celtics game on television? He said, well, it's not true. I'm like, Adam, there's a State Department report out there saying that they banned it. And he's like, well, I need to look into it. You're either a liar or a bad commissioner.
People like him. He's one of the rare commissioners who's popular.
Well, it depends on who you ask. I will say it depends on who you ask. But when it comes to China, I now the whole world knows that, they are bowing down to money and business, and they have no morals, no values, or no principles.
I would think the commissioner could reason, they've cut us off now. We're losing this money. We really need them. But they need us too. They want American basketball. And if we held our ground, they would cave.
More people watch NBA games in China last year than the American population. Over 450 million people watch NBA games. So you really bite on their bluff. So I don't really think that China is going to ban every NBA game or the whole season on Chinese television. So they just, Adam Silver just bite in the bait, I believe.
If he had a spine, he would be sending the whole world a message that speech should be free.
Look what happened after the Peng Shuai, the tennis player, that she came out and said one of these Chinese official, I guess, harassed her. She went out there publicly and talked about it, and she was missing for 2 weeks. And Women's Tennis Association came out and say, we stand with our player. We don't care how much money we lose, but we stand with our player. And the whole world was like, wow, this is what we are expecting from every organization. What kills me is how can a Chinese dictatorship can pretty much control 100% made American company and fire an American citizen from that company? That blows my mind. And the fear is real, because it was the perfect moment, because I talk about these problems right before the Beijing Olympics. So I try to reach out to not people from the NBA, not just my teammates, but other organizations, other companies. I even try to reach out to Olympians. They're like, listen, I was like, do not be part of the propaganda. You are not going there to compete. You're going there to literally become the part of the propaganda. And even my teammates, I was like, listen, man, I know you're making a lot of money, but like, just stand with me.
Did any teammates stand with you?
So privately, they said, listen, we love you. Keep doing what you're doing. I think what you're doing is so inspirational. We support you, but we just cannot do it out loud. I asked them why. They said, well, we have contracts, we have shoe deals, we have endorsement deals, and we want to get another contract. I asked them one simple question. I was like, put yourself in their shoes. If your mother, if your sister, if your daughter was in those concentration camps, getting tortured and gang raped every day, would you still, pick money and business over your morals, values, and principles? They usually turn around and leave the room. They don't answer me when I say that.
Are you still friends with any of these people?
I am friends, but they're not. Because right after I got released, I played 11 years in NBA, 5 different teams. I had hundreds of teammates, hundreds of coaches, hundreds of people who worked at, these front offices. Not one of them messaged me and say, hey man, good luck with your next chapter. Keep doing what you're doing. We had this little group chat, and they messaged the group chat and say, it wasn't just me that got traded to Houston Rockets. It was a couple other players with my team. So they said, good luck, guys. That's it. I try to message them, DMing them. I try to even call on them. Not one single answer. The reason is they don't want me to mention their name when I'm doing an interview like this, which I would never do without their permission. I just hope that they can see what's going on.
If someone in China looks you up on the internet, it says no pages found.
Have you ever watched a movie called Harry Potter?
Yeah.
So like the guy who should not be named, it was literally me in China. Whoever, tried to research me, whoever tried to, look me up, my stats or my games, it was no pages be found. And I left. I was like, well, this actually clears my case, because that clearly it shows the censorship, it shows the dictatorship, and it shows that, because I call Xi Jinping the Winnie the Pooh. So I don't know if you know that. I'm sure everybody knows about. He looks like.
He looks a little like Winnie the Pooh,
so
and you can't say that.
He banned the cartoon, the whole cartoon in China. So if you're in China, try to watch that cartoon, you're not allowed to watch it. You cannot watch it because it's banned. So I called him that. I actually made a shoes about it. And after that game, he literally banned my whole name in China.
It's not just basketball, as you said. It's Hollywood.
Yes.
Got this tough guy, John Cena.
Oh, Lord, please. He's the worst.
The spy game? This is my world.
Oh, God. When I watched his interview in Chinese, Mandarin, that he was apologizing from the Chinese government just because of he called Taiwan a country.
我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉。
I lost all the respect for him in the world, because I was actually he was growing up. He was the one guy that I actually, looked up to, because he was, in the movies. He was one of the best wrestlers out there. He had a really good character. I even have a picture with him out there, because the WWE came to Madison Square Garden while I was with the Knicks. So, they were giving him a tour of Madison Square Garden. So they came into my locker room. We took a picture, we had a conversation and stuff. Undertaker came, some of the other women wrestlers came. So I was a fan of him till that moment.
For more of my content, go to johnstossel.com. I post a new short video every Tuesday. That's at johnstossel.com. You've singled out LeBron James. Why?
So when I singled him out, because one of the reporters asked me a question about, what do you think about what Daryl Moore said about Hong Kong? He said, well, he was not educated enough. He didn't do his research. He put so much people's, jobs, whatever, on danger. He shouldn't be talking about this. He said something like that.
When you're misinformed or you're not educated about something, and I'm just talking about, the tweet itself, you never know the ramifications that can happen.
And after hearing that, I was like, wow, so you are really going to stand up for all the stuff that are happening in America. You're going to call yourself a freedom fighter. You're going to call yourself a more than an athlete, human rights activist.
I would never shut up about things that's wrong.
But when the things that you talk about affects your money and business, you're going to shut up about it. I was like, well, there you go. Let's expose your hypocrisy too. So I singled him out because he is the face of Nike and he is the face of NBA. And I say these things, I was like, if you're an athlete, if you're going to put your signature on these papers and sign this multi-whatever $1 million contract with this, companies, do some little research. Because you're not only putting your signature, you put on everything on that paper, Now, I don't respect anyone who's signed with companies like Nike or companies with like Adidas.
Did LeBron James ever communicate with you afterwards?
So he did not. I actually did try to reach out to him, which he said I never did, which many of my teammates that I play with Boston knows that I did try to reach out to him, but no answer. He is not going to be able to answer the questions that I'm going to ask him, or to do the things that I'm going to ask him to do, which he's a billionaire. So what do you worry about? You are the face of the NBA. You're the face of Nike. You're a billionaire. So what do you worry about?
A sports reporter for the left-wing magazine, The Nation. I missed the memo where James became the CEO of Nike. It's like you have a problem with how Nike does business? Go after Nike.
Listen, I did go after Nike. I did go after and also when I singled out LeBron James, he's not the only one. Obviously, there are so many other players like Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But obviously, he is the face of the league, and all he says that he's more than an athlete. So if you're calling yourself more than an athlete, talk about this.
Nike stands up for Black Lives Matter, no Asian hate.
Okay. LGBTQ community. They stand with, Latino community. So many things that are happening in America that is not going to cost them any money. As soon as the things that they talk about, that's going to cost them money.
So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
I was really good friends with Colin Kaepernick till I started criticizing China and Nike. Now he doesn't even answer either, but I was really good friends with him. And when I sit down and had a conversation about Nike, he was the one telling me about how things works with Nike. So he was my good friend, and me and him had a conversation together before all this China thing started.
I'll push back again. Nike's products were made with Uyghur slave labor until 2019. Once that was reported, Nike says we no longer get supplies
That's
from
a lie.
them.
That's 100% a lie. I work with so many activists. I work with so many different organizations and foundations that with so many lawyers. And you really think I'm going to put a statement out there without doing any research, which I know that they might sue me? No way. So everything I say is being researched by so many foundations and activists and lawyers around the world. So no, they're lying.
LeBron James says,
sometimes you have to think through things that you say that may cause harm, not only for yourself, but for the majority of people.
Well, when you say majority of people, we are in NBA 450 players. But on the other side, just the Uyghurs are 3 million people. And you think about Tibetans, you think about Hong Kongers, you think about Taiwanese people, you think about Falun Gongs, you think about Mongolian people. I can go on and on, So that's the majority.
There's a former Golden State Warriors owner who says,
nobody cares about what's happening to the Uyghurs, okay? Of all the things that I care about, it is below my line. I'm not even sure that China is a dictatorship.
Oh, God. So after I got fired, right, we started to do some obviously more research about NBA and China relationship. We found out 40 NBA owners got tied up $10 billion in China. Of course, they're not going to say anything about what's happening over there. Like Golden State owners, the worst one, Brooklyn Nets owner, Joe Tsai. He is the one that pretty much funding the genocide happening in China. He is one of the founders of Alibaba. And I cannot believe how these people get an NBA team. Joe Tsai, go do research, whoever watching this, and you will see all the things that he's doing wrong. He's literally funding the genocide happening in China right now.
You've given up a lot to speak up against this. You changed your name.
I did. Well, the reason I did it was because I believe that freedom is the most important thing that you can have after air and water and food,
And this is the real deal. You legally changed it.
I illegally changed it. The reason I wanted to do it because I really wanted to inspire the young generation, because I wanted to put that word behind my jersey and just go to every arena and play in front of the fans and show all the kids like this is what freedom means. After having this conversation with my high school teammates, I started to read and research about what freedom means to human beings. And I was like, this is like one of the most important word for human lives. So that's why I wanted to, I wanted to legally change my name and became Mr. Freedom.
And yet, even in America now, you've got woke companies firing employees who say men and women are different. They get fired. And people are not allowed to say obvious truths now.
I mean, yeah.
What do you think about that?
In America, people are now like, whatever they say, they do like a 1 hour interview conversation, and maybe like for 5 or 10 seconds, they say the wrong thing and they get canceled, and all this, but they lose all their sponsorship. They get fired from their job. They declare them as this people that you cannot work with, So that's reality, yeah.
So you're out of a job now. You're no longer playing in the NBA. Is that because of what you said, or because you got old and you weren't as good anymore?
Well, so let me give you some numbers, because I like to talk about numbers, because whenever Sometimes I say something, people are like, well, he's 30, which is 30 is not old. I could have played another 6 years. I feel healthy. Just before the Celtics season, I played with Portland Trail Blazers. I averaged double-double. We made the playoffs. We actually won some playoffs, and I started.
And for non-fans, you were scoring more than double what the average player scored.
So all of a sudden, you're telling me, not even a year later, I forgot how to play basketball. That's a lie. And everybody, even in NBA, everybody knows that I am being blackballed, but they would never mention it.
Another team's general manager says, I don't think he would get a job because of anything he said.
No, please.
I think he just doesn't guard, and the game is changing. He plays a lot older than he actually is.
I can call you, I don't want to disrespect any players right now, but I can call you so many players which I will start over them right now playing in NBA, which this probably general manager is one of the general managers of Celtics, so I know him really well. He was the one actually was always, whenever I played for the Celtics, he was saying, "Oh my God, you're so good, you're this and that." But now, just because of now, I'm out of the league. That's what he's saying. He cannot say that to my face. Trust me. My teammates were turning around and looking at me, and they're like, "Dude, like we need you. Go talk to the coach." I'm like, "That's not my fault. I'm ready to play. Like, put me in and I will go out there and kill it." But they knew that just because of the shoes that I was wearing, whatever I was saying was really hurting the Celtics. They were losing millions of dollars. They knew that if you put him out there, it's gonna be trouble for him. Just before that last Celtics season, look at the stats. I averaged double-double.
Recently inside China, people spoke up, protested the COVID policies, and apparently got results. Does this give you hope that things will change?
These unshakable regimes, like Iran, like China, is now being protested by their very own core. And that actually gives me so much hope. Because if you protest in countries like Russia or Turkey or China or Iran, you will be in jail and get tortured. But people are so sick anymore and saying enough is enough. We want our freedom, We want to go out there and say, you know what? The whole world needs to hear it. And I have so much respect for him. I have so much respect for the woman in Iran. I have so much respect for the white page protesters in China. And I just hope that this will start spreading all around every dictatorships.
Would you like your family to come here from Turkey and be free?
We tried. Trust me, so many politicians, so many high-level people, whatever, tried, but it's
American politicians.
It's just not possible. They said, well, there is a way. There's an American air base in Turkey. They said we can get them out of there, but it will start a huge problem between two countries. And I told them, country is not the problem. The regime is the problem. So let's not do it.
Now you're an American.
Mm-hmm.
What does being an American mean to you?
I wish I can just, whenever we sit down in a locker room with my teammates, they were criticizing America. And I'm not saying America is perfect, And I was just listening to their things that they were complaining about. And I was like, I told them, I wish I could take you guys in some of the countries out there, like China, like Iran, like Russia, like North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba. And you guys will see what a real dictatorship means, And they just don't know any better. They're just not educated enough. Because I come from Middle East, When I was growing up, front of classes, you had American flag, you had Israeli flag. And if you're a student, if you don't step on them, you're not allowed to attend the class. When I was growing up, people were burning American flags. They were burning Israeli flags. They were hating Christian people. They were breaking crosses and saying, this is the right thing to do because they're devil, they're evil. So I grew up in an area like that. I grew up in an environment like that. And you come here, obviously I'm not saying America is perfect. There are obviously a lot of problems that are happening here too. But compared to those countries, you're living in heaven.
Are they still doing that in Turkey?
Yeah. Especially if you go to the east side of Turkey where I grew up, yes, they do. If you say you're Jewish, oh my goodness. If you say you're American, they will literally see you as the devil.
What's next for you?
Good question. Well, I grew up as a huge WWE fan. Wrestling was, for some reason, wrestling was the one thing that I always, admire and watch, and I had so much fun watching. I attended so many actually wrestling matches, and I actually wrestled once in Madison Square Garden, and I am the former 24/7 champion. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
Yeah. So I was, talking to WWE and stuff, and some people over there, some managers and stuff, and one of the wrestlers called me. She was my really good friend. She said, "Listen, I'm gonna tell you something." She said, "If you can talk about everything that you want to talk about, but if you say anything against Saudi Arabia, you are not gonna become a WWE wrestler." And I immediately, I'm like, "What did you just say Saudi Arabia?" I thought she would just say like China or somewhere. Like, I was like, "What's in Saudi Arabia?" She said, "Every year, the WWE goes to Saudi Arabia and make millions of dollars, and women are not even allowed to wrestle there. That's the biggest market. So whatever the China is for NBA is Saudi Arabia for WWE. So if you say anything against the regime over there, you're not going to be wrestling."
But as a wrestler, you could criticize China.
I believe so, but not Saudi Arabia. It's not as big. Saudi Arabia, for some reason, Saudi Arabia is like the biggest thing that happened to WWE, I believe. And every year they make so much money. So they said, do not say a word about it. I was like, oh, it's too late.
So your future career may be this fake wrestling stuff where these people who beat me up years ago?
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you?
I did watch the video, actually. I just grew up as a big fan of Undertaker, and I actually get to meet him in Madison Square Garden. John Cena was my, one of my idols, and some of the other couple of wrestlers that I watched. After I actually spoke out against China, so I got some messages from different, organizations, but, I got some NFL players reaching out to me and say, keep doing what you're doing. But I think the most messages that I got was from WWE for some reason. I don't know why. So I was very happy about it. I'm like, well, that could be my new career. All you do is lift and show and go out there and just, jump over the ropes. But I don't know if it's going to happen now.
Well, I'm sure it's not the same people who had me beaten up. But I'm just trying to process this. I was punished for my speech because I said something true. Pro wrestling is fake. And they don't want it out there.
Well, I did watch that video. And it was a horrible video. Yeah. It's a good entertainment. That's what I will say. It's a really good entertainment. People loves it. I mean, there are thousands of people watching. And WrestleMania is one of the biggest events in America. I was like, well, that could be my future career, till I knew that I couldn't speak against the Saudi Arabian governments.
And you won't speak against the Saudi Arabian government?
Oh, I did.
Oh, you
did?
Too
late. Yeah, it's too late. I already did it, yeah. I criticized for what they do, what they have done, and Khashoggi was one of the things that I talked about and stuff, so it's a little too late.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Of course.
I so admire what you're doing. You have last things you want to say?
I just hope that whoever athlete or high school athlete or college athlete, whoever watching this, there are bigger things in life than money and business. Stand for truth, stand for human rights, freedom, because I just couldn't go to sleep at night knowing that while I was dribbling the basketball in America, on the other side of the world, people were losing their loved ones, losing their lives, and losing their homes. People literally fighting for their future. And look what's happening in Taiwan. Look what's happening in Hong Kong. People they're literally fighting for their country. You have a platform, and not just athletes, singers, rappers, actors, whoever you are. Just stand for the truth, because this platform is given you by God. So use it for God's work.
Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
Thanks for listening. New episodes drop the first and third Mondays of every month. You can subscribe everywhere you get podcasts.